note-taking for consecutive interpreting, and practice. Practice, practice, practice. Here I'm going to show you some excerpts of an actual practice that we did just less than an hour ago. It shows you some of the commentary that I have added as we go. I don't show here any of the participants, and so having them cut out makes it a little bit less clear what's going on, but I don't want to show them because I don't want anybody to feel intimidated that what they're saying might be seen outside of the meeting. So, but I do think that this is very illustrative of what we do in our practice groups, what we should be doing, all of us, when we are practicing. And actually, this is how I learned in the very first place to be an interpreter. We would get together with the professor who was a veteran interpreter, and we would do consecutive and then get comments on how to deal with this issue or that issue, either from the professor or from other interpreters. And here, instead of us all being students, actually many of the participants are veteran interpreters, and they're just polishing up their consecutive with notes. And if you would like to know more about what is being said on the side of the participants, not just from me, well, join us. Please join us. Take a look at the description below and sign up and get a month free. And actually, until the end of September, we are offering 30% off, and it's not just for the first month, it's for every month. You get 30% off using the coupon, which you will find therein. So let's go ahead and take a look at our practice session today. Just a couple comments on the feedback, because this is where we make sure that our feedback is being done the right way. And I'd like to say that it was. Thank you, Rosemary. It was a nice overview. I like the way you said you got more than I did, which makes it feel like you're not speaking down to the person, you know. Even though you have pointed out some things that you got that she didn't get, you're coming from a place of modesty, which I think is very helpful. And you commented on the flow, you even on the performance aspect, and I agree completely. It was excellent, flowed very well. Really, no ums or ahs. Excellent to be watching that kind of thing. It's so important, and yes, she did an excellent job on avoiding such things. And then you went into the matters of substance. And you can mention that if you like. Say, okay, now let me take a look at the matters of substance that I had different from what you had, or that you missed, and you went into some. You could, at that point, okay, here you sort of gave an overall review, beginning to end, and decided to do it that way. But normally in the practice session somewhere else, or here in our breakout rooms, you would probably then say, okay, well, why did I miss that idea? So, for example, Miriam, you say you heard it, but you, and I'm still commenting on the feedback. What you would want to do is the two of you say, can you find it in your notes? And then Miriam would say, well, let me see. And she'll find that spot, and she'll be able to sort of say, okay, why did I miss that? Is it that I left it out of my notes entirely? Or is it that I couldn't read my notes? Or what? And by examining that kind of shortcoming, you should be able to notice tendencies. So, for example, sometimes people have difficulties with the links, and or sometimes people have difficulties with numbers. If you notice any kind of tendency like that, you want to focus on it. So, for example, I told Rosemary a while back, everything is so great, but you do still do a lot of ums and ahs, and she took it to heart. She realized, okay, I'm realizing that this is a tendency that I have. I need to do something about it. If we are not aware of our weak points, we won't know which ones to work on. And so that's the idea here. So still, it's just commentary on the feedback. So when you do give feedback, try to help the person find it in the notes and discover if there's a root cause and whether it might be a tendency. And also, just like I did for Rosemary, if you notice in any of your colleagues a trend, like a tendency, again, like let's say Miriam is excellent at so many things, she's got a great flow, she has the argument down, it all fits together as a whole. I find that's one of her strong points, but you might notice something else about her. So if you do notice something about a colleague that is a weak point, you've noticed it, over 2 or 3 or 4 interpretations, you can point that out. So anyway, that's my comments on the feedback. Let's now move on to Miriam, and I think that Roham had something to say. That's a very interesting commentary because it goes to the heart of interpretation, in my view. Seleskovich was my teacher, and the whole thing she was trying to get us to realize that we are not going from one language to another. We're going from one language to understanding what is actually meant and the meaning, and that includes so many things, everything: the register, the intention, the facts and figures, the style, the humor, etc. So you get all of that, take it in, and now you express it absolutely faithfully in what I call your own words, because you can't use the original words, right? You can't. Those are in another language. And you can't count on all of your ready-made or dictionary-supplied equivalents. You might find that they do work, but you have to actually find the words, and those might be the words you end up with, but you are the one who select the right way to say it. So you actually go not from one language to another, you go from one language to your understanding and then express that understanding. And sort of, that's the big theory, right? And we've all learned that in our studies and talking to colleagues, etc. And Roham, that's sort of what you're touching upon, right? So that Miriam really is very good at doing that and giving us something that's natural in the target language. Here we're going from English to English, which is a bit artificial, but you can still do it. And Miriam really does a good job of coming back to English, but using something that is hers. And because it actually explains the way she needs to say it while remaining absolutely and totally faithful. So that's sort of the heart of what we're doing here is actually, I think. And that's actually in this kind of context, doing consecutive like this, that's how I learned how to be an interpreter in the first place. My very first year, which I had to do twice in Paris, was just doing this day in and day out. And that's how I learned to be an interpreter under Danica Seleskovich. I'm feeling talkative today, I guess. So it's the early morning, but I did have a lot of coffee. Okay, so yeah, please go ahead, Adrian. What a compliment, and I would agree. She's really got she's really got it down. Yeah, I haven't really given my evaluation of Miriam. So Miriam, you're obviously just totally professional. You've been professional level for a long time. I mean, all of you are professional, but I mean, you could stand up and do consecutive at a high level meeting, and it would work well. Of course, I don't, am not able to say for your other languages, but in terms of the ability to take it in and remember it and express it accurately, you're doing an excellent job. And it's, especially in the delivery performance aspect, you're really good at that. And your English is, I think I've said you last time, that it's really, really good. In a couple of little things, I just, as a model, largely as a model. I like to say, okay, I have a point of substance, and I'm going to go back to the one that was already mentioned, actually. She says, it's not your cell phone, and it's actually your body, and it's your bones, 206 of them. And if you forgot them today, don't worry, you can use mine. And that's when she rolls out the skeleton, I believe. It was something like that. And so I'm actually trying to model for us how to give a comment on substance. So can you look in your notes, and what do you have in your notes for that part? And you heard the chuckles, right? The people chuckled. People,
No.
they laughed. Okay. This is the kind of thing that please be sensitive to. If your speaker tells a joke and the source language audience laughs, and then you do your interpretation and the people do not laugh, the speaker feels a bit robbed. You can see what I mean, right? The speaker is watching and saying, I want these people to understand. And if they don't have a similar reaction, then the speaker assumes, even though this is so minor, so minor, but to the speaker it may feel much bigger than it is, actually. And the speaker may not understand that target language, and so may think that it's something else. So anyway, I was sort of, we've looked at Miriam's notes and just dug a little bit into this point of substance, which I think is helpful for her to figure out what she needs to work on for the future. Then I have a little small thing of form. You have excellent English. It flows. It's such a strong B, and you made a mistake that a lot of English people make, and I'd like to say this, and I think this will be useful for everyone. If I say, you said that it's possible. I can't read my own handwriting. Anyway, you forgot to invert the verb and the subject in an indirect question. So if I say, what time is it? I say, is it? But then when I say, I don't know what time it is, it is. And this is very common. You said it's possible that you don't know when did you? And it would be the other way around. It's possible that you don't know when you did. Just watch that, okay? It's a very common mistake even among native speakers, but it'll be much better if you maintain the normal word order, subject first, verb after, when it's a reported speech or when it's after indirect speech, I can't remember what it's called anyway. I don't know what time it is, as opposed to what time is it. Okay, that's super minor, but it's also helpful for Miriam, and it's helpful for everyone. But I also wanted to model how I would do a feedback on a matter of form. And by form we mean you said the right thing, everybody understood it, but there's a better way to say it. Wang Ying, yes. Good, excellent question. And let me first concede that even if Miriam had remembered and said everything perfectly, people may not have laughed because they wouldn't see the same visual. So you can't be guaranteed of actually producing a laugh in your audience where there was a laugh the first time around, and that's justified. It's just going to happen. Okay, it's true that many things are just not funny when you interpret them. Often it's a play on words, which if you're an amazing linguist and incredibly agile and witty, you might find something, but it's pretty touch and go. It's pretty hard to do. So I think that the main thing is to try and to say something that is close to the original. And okay, sometimes I add a comment on my own interpretation, to tell you the truth, especially in simultaneous. I might say, the interpreter is not conveying the humor, but at this point, people laughed. And then I'm going to tell you the second part of my comment, which you can find is clever or is even a little too clever, which is, and if you would be so kind as to laugh, that will make the speaker happy. And people find that funny and they laugh. So there you go. You get your effect by saying something like that. It's I find a little bit cocky on the part of the interpreter to say that. So that's why I'm saying it's up to you if you feel like you have that personality. It's a little bit, it can come across as a bit, to me, but it's also can serve the purpose. Some speeches have a purpose of conveying information, and the speaker is just wants to get the numbers across. So it doesn't matter so much if people laugh. In other speeches, it's crucial because the speaker is trying to be funny, trying to charm, trying maybe to get people to vote for her, or in any case, doing sort of a charm offensive, and in which case they are hoping for the laugh. They're hoping a lot for the laugh. And so if you say something like that in a kind way, the speaker, it's quite funny in the original, and the interpreter just can't find a way, but if you laughed, it would be nice. That way you're remaining modest, but you might actually get them to chuckle. But admittedly, just like in translation, translators can work a long time to find something that will finally produce the same joke, the same effect. But we don't have that time. So, okay, that's my answer. Yeah, go ahead, Rosemary. You know, we do have to face the fact that we do lose something. Sometimes it's absolutely unavoidable. What my argument is, and I think I understand this from my schooling, is that we do lose something, but we make up for it by being even better in other ways. So if we have a stuttering speaker who's kind of unpleasant, you can make up for that by being much smoother. So that's sort of a justification for the fact that we do lose something. And here, let me give you an example. When I was in Paris in the early 2000s, I interpreted for Nicolas Sarkozy when he was Minister of Finance, and he addressed a group of bankers. And one of the bankers asked a question. And what I knew is that this banker was British. I could tell by the accent. And Sarkozy said, well, vous les Américains. So he said, you Americans, blah, 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 blah. And there were Americans in the room, but it turns out that this one was not American. And what do you know? That was lost. Well, what could I do? Say, and by the way, he has a British accent. No. So, well, you know, if it's an acting class or something and it needs to be said, yeah, you might say that. But in this particular case, of course, so there are things that we do lose. And sarcasm, if we can, we convey it. We convey all that we can. But some things just are quite difficult. And even for the source language audience, sometimes sarcasm is lost, right? If you have a very sophisticated kind of uppity Brit talking to an American from California, they might be saying, well, it's a lovely day today, and actually it's raining like crazy. And the American is going, wait, is this for the Brits, is this a lovely day? Doesn't realize it's sarcasm. So anyway, that happens. Okay, good. So we've had a long seminar phase. Let's go into our practice phase, right? Everybody ready? We're going to move on to the next next part of this. But that's an excellent question, Miriam. And the room that I was in was struggling with that very point. And I can't say that I have the answer. However, we had a very good discussion sort of in the room. They were laughing, like we were all laughing a lot, which is a good way to take it, because it was so hard, but you can laugh at how hard it is too, I guess. They said, David, that was an excellent practice, and I thought they could have said, why are you doing this to us? And so I thought that was very nice to have turned it in a positive way. But this is an opportunity to address something, I think. Every little practice presents these opportunities. So what we had here was a series of descriptions and names that came quite rapid fire. And this reminded me of something that Skaleskevich said, which was that we were talking about what's technical vocabulary, quote, technical vocabulary. And she said, and you can quote me, I remember this very well, it's anything you don't understand. And we laughed. And she looked at us and said, no, I mean that. And what she meant for you as interpreters, these things that are beyond your comprehension are basically in the realm of technical. In other words, they are words, but you don't know what's behind them, just like with other technical vocabulary. So if a bunch of doctors are talking about symbiosis or something that you don't know what it is, all you have is the sound and the context, so you know it's a disease, and you're going to be able to work with that. They're like names. They are just labels. So we have the names of all these animals, right? The courageous panther, or I can't remember, but okay, so we have these things that are simply words, and that's similar to any label. I call them labels. If I give you my name, you don't know anything about me except my name, and you know that I'm a person giving his name. Just like you know from the doctor that the name of the disease is a disease. So you do know something about all these things, but basically you are stuck with the sound, and you need to either reproduce that or perhaps now I'm assuming you don't understand, right? So if I say multiple sclerosis and you go, oh yeah, I know what that is, and I have the equivalent in French, it would be sclérose en plaques. So that's no longer technical for you. That's no longer impenetrable for you. You've got the equivalent and you know what it is. But if you don't know and you don't know how to say it, you're stuck simply with a sound. And here in this we have that. We just have all of these names of places and what people were called, etc. And this is why they thanked me, because you have such an opportunity to practice note-taking. You really are going to have to write this down generally phonetically and very fast. So I just wanted to point out that this is sort of a realm which is the same as these technical words. It's technical. These are words where we just have a label, and we probably have no target language term. Anyway, are there any comments on that? I think it's an opportunity to take rapid fire notes, and because of that it was extremely difficult, because if you decided, okay, I'm going to get all of this series of words, it was very hard to follow, continue following in your notes. Yeah, Raham. Yeah, you know, Christopher Thierry used to say, if you don't understand, just put your pen down and listen. And he told the story of a famous interpreter who could do consecutives that were extremely long. I think he probably meant 10 minutes or more without taking any notes at all. And he said that famous interpreter said that he had some kind of a method where he imagined a pathway near his childhood home, and each item was somewhere on that pathway. That's just a little anecdote. But I have found that if I put the pen down, yeah, sometimes I end up doing that. I had an African guy who was just overflowing with expressions of gratitude, just shouting out. It was kind of like free thought association. And I found that what I was writing was just pretty useless. So I did. I stopped writing, and I knew what I could do is give all of that feeling. And so I found ways to express this overflowing gratitude and enthusiasm in English that were, but they were not the same metaphors and the same allusions that he was making. So, but it was without notes. So sometimes you do, yeah. You put it down. You put your pen down, or you just note major turning points, and you could say at this. You could write something like a huge smiley face to say this is to yourself. This is the point where you overflow with gratitude, and then let's say he makes a concrete reference that you're actually able to understand and note down. Then I note that down and keep going. But I think, Raham, what you're getting at is we sometimes have a dilemma. Shall I try to get all of this, or am I going to be reduced to giving a summary? And sometimes it's a strategic choice. In the case I just cited, that was what I did. I decided I'm going to have to give a summary or an equivalent performance. That is, try to get across the gratitude and the feeling that he was really trying to convey, but I was not going to be able to get the details. So if you can't do everything, you just do what you can. And yes, you make a strategic decision, I think, based on the purpose. If it's a bunch of engineers who absolutely need to get across the exact numbers or the meeting will fail, then stop with all the other stuff and make sure you get the numbers. If it's somebody, like in the case I just cited, of someone who is overflowing with gratitude and people can see that anyway, then take the other strategy, which is I'm going to summarize and express in my own words all the feeling and the purpose that person has. I hope that helps. Yeah, I hope that helps. What I always say is make sure you know what the person is trying to say, what their purpose is. And then if you have to weed something out, do it on that basis. Like the case of the engineers who must get across certain numbers or the meeting is a failure, or the case of a comedian who must get people to laugh or his show is a failure. So you want to know how best to serve. That's the way I see it. Now in court, I know that the purpose is to enable the court reporter to put something accurate that will be useful and to the case, and that will be absolutely faithful to what was said. So you concentrate on that. That would be my answer. Shall we go on? We've got enough time to do 2 short ones or 1 long one. I think I'm going to go for 2 short ones. Okay, I hope you got some good advice there, and I hope it also gave you a feel for how things are run in our practice sessions. So please check out the description below and use the coupon to join us, and I hope to see you soon.